This is Radio Cairo. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad is at the control, and this is the world of info. And today, in the world of info, we are presenting books. So, this is the world of books. And yes, today we are presenting, as usual, two really very interesting books that deserve to be read. The first book is Salwa, A Life or a Story Without an End by Karim Gamal. And the second book is The Voice of the Place, On Foot Through the Geography of Egypt by Dr. Hatif Matamid. Two books that really deserve to be read. So relax, sit, and listen to the world of info and the world of books. Stay tuned to us. After the break, we'll start right away. So let's start right away with the first book. The book is called Salwa, Story Without an End by Karim Gamal. Well, this is really a beautiful book and really full of nostalgia. Karim Gamal is a very talented writer who goes deep in research about his work. I read two books of his books before, talking about Kulthum and Kulthum in her role in the support of the Egyptian army, and these were really beautiful, well-researched books. And today we are presenting a book written by Karim Gamal about Salwa Hijazi. And for those you who don't know Salwa Hijazi, will have to give a resume. Salwa Hijazi was a famous anchor lady or a famous announcer in the TV of Egypt. She was born in 1935 and married very early in her life after finishing high school, and she was the daughter of a very respectable judge, and she got married after graduating from her lycée français, and she had her first daughter when she was 19. After that, she had two sons, and later on in her life, just when she was 38, she had another little boy, and so she has four children, one young lady, and three boys. During her life, as living as a housewife, she was very much interested into reading and into art. Poetry for her was like a breath of air to keep her awake and to keep her happy. And her poems that she used to write, preferably in French, she used to write them for her own self. And it was up to her in the year 1960 when it was announced that there will be a TV building and a TV will be starting in Egypt. She decided to join this and she applied for the competition. Her face, which is so angelic, and her beautiful voice were so much integrated in the committee that has examined her, and they decided to accept her as an announcer. In the beginning, she used to give the news in French in the TV, and also in Radio Cairo in French. However, she started to be an anchor lady, and she started to have a share in some of the programs. And it was very well known and well received that she is very highly cultured and very highly educated. And at that time, the people who used to prepare these programs were very eminent writers. From them, for example, Saleh Gaudet, the famous poet, or for also sometimes it was Anis Mansour or Ahmad Bahgat. So these people who were preparing the script for the questions that the announcers will start, and talking with great giants of literature at that time, for example, Naguib Mahfouz, Taha Hussein, and Nazar Qabbani, all that, and she was very much exposed to all these great giants of culture and education. And she had a weak spot in poetry, as I said, and she met a lot of poets of Egypt, and suddenly these poets became interested in her work. Some of them even have proposed that they will translate some of her work or her beautiful book that was released. And even this book has received the prize, or the first prize of the French embassy in Cairo for the best poetry book. And after that, she started people like Kamel Bishinnawi or like Salah Gaudat or even Nazar Qabbani offered to translate her poems into Arabic. And this made her a very uh, well informed person and very well known and famous. However, also the year 1965 has seen the decision of the very famous anchor lady at that time, Layla Rostom, who decided to quit her job in the Egyptian TV, go to Lebanon where she got married, and she stayed there and she worked in the Lebanese television. So the best one to replace her in this job as an anchor lady in one of the very important programs was Salwa Hagazi. So Salwa Hagazi was given this job to further increase her experience in being a good anchor lady, very highly cultured. At that time, also, she was very much involved in writing poetry. Also, in this period, she wanted to share with the people, with the children of Egypt, her love for children. As I said, she had at that time three children, and later on in the late '69, she had the fourth child. So she was very much interested in showing and becoming a storyteller for youngsters. So she had her beautiful program called Asafir al-Jannah, or the heavens birds. And this was a program that she showed a lot of care, and she shared the program with a lot of boys and girls, and some of them even were a bit so shy, and she has shown a lot of kindness to the children who were a bit hesitant or lacked the confidence in themselves. And so she was very much appreciated by the children of Egypt. Also being a very experienced anchor lady, and especially that she speaks French very fluently, she was given the task of going with the famous singer Umm Kulthum in her famous trip to France, where she was asked to uh, have to record the episode and record the beautiful two concerts that Kulthum had, and to record her visit and record the reactions of the Arabs and the people who were living in France and attending this beautiful concert. And of course, Salwa received admiration from everybody for doing this beautiful job very meticulously and eloquently. And also at that time, Kulthum noticed how professional she is. So after great demands from Salwa Hagazi, Kulthum accepted in a very rare event to talk with Salwa Hagazi about this beautiful concert. And Salwa Hagazi was so intelligent to ask her a question in front of the camera and saying, um, did how much of money of the concert did you give of your fees for this concert did you give for Egypt? She said all of it. And so the Salwa Hagazi, really all of it? And Umm Kulthum replied, this is not enough. I would have loved to give more. And of course, this gives you an idea of Kulthum and of the precision and the eloquency of Salwa Hagazi. Salwa Hagazi has taken the job of going around with Kulthum in different areas after that, when she visited Algeria and when she visited Libya, and she had these beautiful talks. Her influence in the famous program of Asafir al-Jannah was really very touchy for the whole of Egypt. Come the year 1967, and she has suffered severe depression that she stopped all over. writing her beautiful poems and her beautiful poetry. And it took her some times to recover. So she didn't write the assortment of, release the assortment of her poems except later in 1970-71. However, in 1973, in January, February, she was given the task to go in a sort of mission to the Libyan TV, where she is going to share in some programs and record with a lot of Libyans about the new Libya and the modern Libya, which was rising in modernism at that period of time. And she went with a huge group of TV technicians and cameramen and directors. And of these directors, there was one of them. It was the name of Awad Mustafa, and he was the special director of all programs. He was a very talented gentleman, and he even was self-educated. He graduated from high school, didn't have enough money to join the university, was hired in the TV building in an administrative job, but he went on studying, graduating from the Faculty of Art, and getting a degree, and then found a place by training to become a director, and he was a very talented director. So he and her and her photographer and his photographer were the ones, or the cameraman, were very clever in promoting the work of Salwa Hijazi, and they acted as a very great team. Their work went on for a month or month and a half, and at that period, she did a very good job. And as they were going Trablus to Tripoli International Airport, they found out that the plane was fully booked and that there were only some of the places were not available. So two of the mission will have to postpone to the next plane. So Salwa Hijazi offered to stay over with Awad, and Hussein, the cameraman, decided to stay, and he said maybe this will be a good chance because the next plane will go from Benghazi. We go by car to Benghazi, and then we do some work in Benghazi, and then we travel by plane. On their way to Benghazi, they had a car accident, and Hussein, the cameraman, was slightly injured, so he was hospitalized. Then both of Awad and Salwa did some work in Benghazi and went to the Libyan aeroplane on February 19 on this unfortunate trip to Cairo from Benghazi. The plane was a 727, and it was led by a French captain who was very experienced in flying this special type of planes, and he had a co-pilot who was also a very active co-pilot and flight engineer as well. And they have traveled to Cairo, this crew, almost 8 times before. In the same plane, there was one of the very eminent politicians, and that was the ex-Libyan ambassador, Salah Yubsur, and he was a very eminent politician, and he was one of the co-founders of the PLO. As they went into the plane and the plane was approaching Cairo in its routine flight, suddenly something happened with the equipment or aeronautical equipments of the aeroplane. And the plane was completely, in spite of the good weather, was in dilemma. The pilot couldn't know and could not trace how to find Cairo, because all the figures in front of him in the control cockpit were not well explained. So suddenly they found themselves over Sinai, which was occupied at that time, and for 8 minutes they were flying over Sinai in a no flight zone. For 3 or 4 minutes, he discovered that he is in the wrong territory, and he started going back towards Egypt to cross the Suez Canal. Just 1 minute flying before that, Israeli planes came, and without any warning, they shot down the plane, and almost everyone on the plane, except very few, almost 6 or 7, survived this accident. This was a heroic accident, and Salwa Hijazi lost her life. The scar of Salwa Hijazi's death has affected the generation. The generation of youngsters who grew up with seeing Salwa Hijazi coming on the TV with her beautiful, angelic face, giving them information and giving them high culture and giving them beautiful notes and very poetic life, and a real family lady. And she was like a role model for a lot of people. For young children, she was like their mother, and for young ladies in their 20s and their 30s, for them she was a role model of success and happiness and cheerfulness. In spite of sometimes her pessimism in some of her poems, yet she always had a very big place in the hearts of Egyptians. So, unfortunately, with her sudden death and the fact that she didn't die alone, a lot of people died with her. And of course, one of them was Awad Mustafa, who just was having his little girl, was completing 1 year old of her age. And her name by chance and by choice of Awad Mustafa was Salwa. So the death of Salwa and all the victims of the plane have left a scar in Egypt. The Israelis defended themselves by saying that the plane refused to land, but it was proved through the black box of the aeroplane that nobody gave any instructions for the plane to go down or to descend into any airfield. It was simply shot under orders of Junin and the chief of staff, David Ali Azar, and the instructions of Moshe Dayan, the Secretary of Defense. The pilot, or the commander of the Phantom who downed the plane, later on admitted that he was given the order directly from the chief of the Israeli Air Force, and that he has suffered a lot of psychological disturbance after seeing himself downing this plane and killing all these souls, especially that he visited the wreckage of the plane and seen the bodies of the deceased when it was completely burned. The funeral that was given to Salwa and her colleagues and her friends and the victims of the aeroplane has taken the minds and the emotions of the Egyptians. Salwa Hijazi still lives in the hearts of Egyptians up till now. And Karim Gamal has done a wonderful job by writing all this information, wealth of information of the book. And definitely, when you read this book, you will feel how much effort he has done, how much archive material that he has knitted together, and how he built a bridge of confidence between the family of Salwa Hijazi and him, so that they accepted to open up the boxes of memories, the books, the notebooks that she has written in her poetry and her poem. They allowed him to picture some of her paintings that she used to paint, and he has given us a reflection of the heartful, kind persona of Salwa Hijazi. At that time of Egypt, there were only 2 channels of TV. There was no there is nothing was like satellite channels or whatever, and so the Egyptians had a strong relation with Salwa Hijazi, the lady who comes to them and is very kind to their family and their children, and the lady who is so cultured that she is able to connect and communicate with the famous literature great and the great Egyptians, writers and poets as well. So the tribute and the life of Salwa Hijazi makes her living still in the hearts of Egyptians. And of course, knowing more details of how she was directed to the accident, and especially knowing that, for example, Mrs. Nagwa Ibrahim, the famous anchor lady, the Egyptian anchor lady and announcer, was the one who was supposed to go to Libya. But Salwa told her, let me go this time because next year my son is going to have his high school diploma. So I would like to be sitting next to him and you take the trip next year. And so the fate was sealed. The decision to go instead of Nagwa, and the decision not to fly from Tripoli and to fly from Benghazi, and the mistakes that happened, and how she was brutally, the plane was brutally downed by the Israeli Air Force. All this shows that sometimes the hand of fate changes definitely for our lives and takes us into different directions. So with this, we come to the end of this beautiful book, and definitely a book that deserves to be read. Salwa Sira Bila Nihaya by Karim Gamal. Salwa, biography with no end. A book that deserves to be read. Stay tuned to us in Radio Cairo, and will come just right. So, still listening to the World of Info, and today is the World of Books. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad is still at the control, and we are talking about the second book of the day. The book is called The Voice of the Place. On Foot in the Egyptian Geography by Dr. Atif Mu'tamad. Dr. Atif Mu'tamad is a professor of geography in the Faculty of Arts, Cairo University. He has received his PhD from St. Petersburg in Russia in the year 2001 and has got the state encouraging trophy in geography. And he worked as a cultural attaché and cultural consultant in counselor in Russia for some time. So when we talk about a geographist and a professor of geography, definitely we have to read. Geography is a subject that we have taken all through our lives, and it's very important to understand geography of any country, because some countries are really the gifts of geography, while other ones are definitely victims of geography. Egypt has a very special geography, and there are a lot of professors of geography and writers in geography who are very well experienced who have written about Egypt. And of course, one of them is Gamal Hamdan, the famous professor of geography, who has written a beautiful book about the character of Egypt. And he has described the geography, the people, and the population and history. So it's really a very lively work and very lovely science. And of course, we can always remember the work of Professor Muhammad Riyad, who has gone through the geography of Egypt all through his life and still writing a lot about Egypt and about its cultural trophies and geographic trophies. Atif Mu'tamad, the professor Atif Mu'tamad, decided to write about Egypt and write through his eyes. So by being armed with his education about geography of Egypt, he started visiting Egypt from north to south and from south to north, from east to west. And he started in Alexandria because he loves Alexandria. And taking us through Alexandria, not just through geography of Alexandria, but through history, telling us about more information about history of Egypt and history of Alexandria. And definitely, this is something that deserves to be talked about. So after the break, we'll talk more about Alexandria and how, and the North Coast, the Eastern North Coast and the Western North. So you're still listening to the World of Info, and today is the World of Books. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad is still at the control. And yes, that's a good book. The Voice of the Place, On Foot Through the Geography of Egypt by Dr. Atif Mu'tamad. Well, he has chosen to start from Alexandria, and there is nothing more beautiful too the eyes and the minds of Egyptians than Alexandria. Alexandria has occupied a very special place in Egypt. Not only was it the capital of Ptolemaic Egypt, as we all know, but it was also a cosmopolitan city, a city that has been the heart and the soul of Egypt since 332 BC, and yes, up till now. Everybody who has seen Alexandria, visited Alexandria, or lived in Alexandria definitely has enjoyed his stay there, has memories over there, and definitely would love to go. Because it's a cosmopolitan city. It's a city that has been always a lot of residents from all over the world. Yes, the cosmopolitan effect of Alexandria can go back definitely to the 19th century. Although the Greeks and the Romans, and yes, there were roads, but by the time these Greeks and Romans have become Egyptians. And even the royal family of Muhammad Ali has built a beautiful palace there in Ras Tin. He's taking us step by step through Alexandria, taking us even to places and comparing the western northern coast of Egypt, that is starting from Alexandria westwards towards Saloum, saying that it's a bit sandy and some rocks over there, and the eastern northern coast from Alexandria till Al Arish and Rafah. And yes, this is completely sandy and there is no real rocky anywhere over there. And yes, part of Alexandria and to the west has been always a favorite beach for Egyptians, and they have divided into that we have heard up till Alamein, the good Sahel, the good north coast, and from Alamein, the evil Sahel up to Saloum. But it is a beautiful place. He's taking us through Alexandria, taking us through Bir Masoud, taking us to the eastern port and the western port, and taking us to Qaitbay Citadel and Sidi Bishr Mosque, Morsi Abu al-Abbas, and all these beautiful mosques. So, examining the geography of the place, going westwards to and explaining the types of why we call Sidi Abdurrahman and who was Sidi Abdurrahman actually, and how much important and valuable was this man in the history of Egypt. And going westward more, a place that has been the site of wars and has place that has been the site of planting some of the best wheat of Egypt during the Roman period of time, especially the western part of Alexandria, up to Warg al-Arab and King Mariut. He's explaining to us names and he's telling us stories. And suddenly, we find the second chapter taking us to the maximum house. So he decided to start from the maximum north, that's Alexandria, and going to the maximum south of Egypt, and that is where Lake Nasser is, and that's where the borders between Egypt and Sudan goes, and that is the Noba, country of the Noba, or the countryside of the Noba, going through different temples, that is of Abu Simbel and of Kalabsha, and how Kalabsha has changed its position from the temple itself, which has advanced north by 40 kilometers, or the village that has been advanced by 140 kilometers, or the gate of the village of the temple that has been sent to Europe in gratitude for helping in saving the monuments that were drowned by the lake, the dam lake. Well, we can see how things went on through 4,000 kilometers. So the number 4 is still there. As we go, he takes us to Aswan, and from Aswan we'll see how the valley is so narrow, and how the people decided to live on the desert and on the mountains on the banks of the Nile, to leave the small green place, only the most fertile land and very less wide than anywhere in the valley itself. They didn't build their houses there so that they can use this for planting the necessary plants for their daily living. He took us north to Thebes, and from Thebes he took us to Luxor, and which is now the currently Luxor, and examining the difference between the east and the west. Then he took us to Qina and talked about Abdurrahim al-Qanawi, the famous gentleman who came from Morocco and did some good preaching. And he talked about the difference between Qus, which was one of the most beautiful cities and a very important trade center during the Pharaonic time and during the Islamic time, and how it has lost its economic status by time, and taking us forward to Qina, and from there onwards we go to Ilminia, and telling us about the beautiful monuments there, and taking us through a very careful study of Fayoum. And yes, through the Fayoum you will see how a small valley is there, and how the lake and Bahr Yusuf is taking the water from the Nile towards there, and what are the challenges of Fayoum, and how to make it revived economically and environmentally. And then he reached the heart of Egypt, and that is Cairo. Took us step by step, and he says that going through the streets of Cairo is not aimless, it is purely aimful. Aimful means that it is full of aims for you to see, to grasp, to understand, to see the different views of Cairo and the greater Cairo, to see from yourself where the whole story started, whether it was in El Fustat or whether it is in Tala'a, Qata'a, or it is in the real old Fatimid Cairo. He would take you to the citadel and makes a comparison between the Salah ad-Din citadel and the criminal citizen, and saying that the Kremlin, which is the palace of the ruling czars, has been built in 1500s, while that of Salah ad-Din has built 3 centuries earlier. How beautiful it is, how inviting it is, and how it goes through different sectors. He takes us from one side to another, to Maadi, to Dar es Salaam, and to uptown Cairo, modern Cairo and old Cairo, and the Ismail Basha Cairo, the ones that he loved, and the urbanization of the desert that was made by the Mamluks. And of course, he will not miss the Giza and the pyramids. All through this, taking you even to the north and the east. This is so beautiful. And from there, he will not go yet to Sinai. He will take us into 3 trips into the delta of the Nile. And there he went from Brollos, Hamul, the Souk, everywhere in this beautiful place of the delta. Kafr al-Sheikh in the north of the delta, and other places. All this through examining and seeing for himself. And from Kafr al-Sheikh he went to Mansoura and has seen Mansoura for himself, and comparing how sometimes the land, the cultivated land, is lost to buildings around it. And as we can see and go, he's studying the environment and going even to the west of Delta, from the Lingat to Nukrash and forward to Little Egypt, or he will take us after that to Sinai. He will pass by Port Said, Ismailia, and Suez, but definitely he would call that Sinai is Little Egypt, because it has everything like Egypt except the River Nile. And that's why it could be a real miniature of the whole of Egypt, an important part of Egypt, and definitely it shows you how beautiful it is. He takes us through Sinai, and he reminds me of the beautiful book of Gamal Hamdan that he has written about Sinai. And definitely this is another chapter that deserves to be seen. He takes you through a touristic activity and takes you more or through Sinai. And after coming from Sinai, he would definitely go to a very important part of Egypt, as that is the Eastern Desert. Takes us through the Eastern Desert, which was part of his PhD study, and goes always examining it, because definitely The Eastern Desert is another important part of Egypt, which has, of course, its treasures. Whether these are mosques like the Mosque of Abu Hassan al-Shazli, or it is a place for the famous gold mines of Egypt and the beautiful landscape that takes it all through the Red Sea. As we go through that, and of course the monasteries of St. Antonius and of course of Paula, all this can show us how it is very important. And he even takes us through the route of Al-Arba'in, or Darb al-Arba'in, and takes us there, which goes from Darfur in Sudan to Asyut in Egypt. It's a trip that has been made through centuries, which carried all the trophies of Africa towards the real Egypt, a place for trade and a road for trade. Definitely, the book is taking us through different pages around to see Egypt over from one side to another. How can far that this book really helps you to understand the geography of Egypt and understand how really geography is a science for all people. It is there around you. It is in a poem. It is in a novel. It's in a film. It's in a painting. It's even in popular sayings. Geography does not present just solid facts or information, but it gives encyclopedic information and, as we can call it, aperitif for you to take care and to understand the science. And for example, when we talk about famous leaders, people who have left trace in their country and definitely who have proved their value as statesmen, a gentleman by the name of Charles de Gaulle could not talk a political talk except when he lay a map in front of you. And in the map, that's what Hassanin Hakel wrote in his memoirs when he met de Gaulle, that he would always place a map in front of him and start lecturing, explaining, and telling everyone how geography is the key, understanding geography is the key for success of building people and building nations, and how some countries are victims of geography, like, for example, countries in the middle that were torn between empires. For example, in the old period when Poland was torn between the Prussian Empire from one side and the Russian Empire from the other side, how Belgium has been a victim of geography, that the German forces went through two world wars in less than 50 years. They have broken the neutrality of Belgium by the fact that it was a victim of geography, because it was a real clear route for the German army to reach the French borders. And of course, Egypt is the challenge of geography. Egypt lies in the heart of the whole world. Egypt is connecting three continents together, whether this is Asia, Europe, or Africa. Egypt is in the corner of the old world. And yes, Egypt has proved that when it is powerful, it becomes an empire. And therefore, a lot of forces have been always subjected because of its place in geography, trying always to make it weak and poor. But definitely, Egypt is a very important place. And therefore, geography is good. And therefore, we can leave this with a voice of place. On foot in the geography of Egypt by Dr. Atif Mu'tamid, a book that deserves to be read. Definitely, I advise you to read it. So today was the world of info. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad was at the control. And today we have two beautiful books. Salwa, a biography without an end by Karim Gamal, and The Voice of the Place, On Foot Through the Geography of Egypt by Atif Mu'tamid. So we come to the end of the world of info. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad was at the control. Stay tuned to Radio Cairo, and we promise to come the same time, same station next week.